I love lists and roundups. I hope you do too, because that's what this video is about. It's that time of year when people seem to do roundups. I'm always interested and fascinated by the gear other people use and what they use it for. And sometimes I get a little bit of inspiration from the suggestions. I hope you do too. So here is my top 6 list of favourite plugins from 2022. So why 6, you may wonder? Why not 5 or 10? Well, this was not an easy list to make. There are so many wonderful plugins out there. And as I was trying to condense them down to a manageable number, I just ended up with 6. So I thought, well, let's go with that. So these are all plugins which I find really interesting, really inspiring, creative, some a little bit strange, a little bit weird perhaps. But they all have something which keeps pulling me back to them. See what you think. Here we go. So this is Arturia's CS-80 V. It is CS-80 V4. I'm assuming it is the 4th iteration of Arturia's CS-80. This came out this year and was included in the V Collection 9, and I really wasn't too bothered about getting this one because I already had version 3, but this has got some new additions. I actually got this free from Steinberg. Now, this is not a sponsored video at all. A few months ago, Steinberg were giving away some software to people who owned Cubase or various versions of Cubase, and I have Cubase Pro, and they gave me this Arturia CS-80 V4 for nothing, so thank you, Steinberg. So I've been using this instead of the version 3. They look very similar. Apparently Arturia has revamped a lot of this, I think, internally, and they've added extra effects. And one very interesting thing which they have added, which I shall just point out to you because this is a bit relevant to something else in my top 5, and that is it has now got MPE support, which you can switch on and off here. There are a few more settings here in the version 4 than there are in the version 3. So MPE, MIDI polyphonic expression, this is an interesting feature which some keyboards, not an awful lot, but some keyboards support it, and an increasing number of soft synths seem to support it as well. But more of that later. I'm going to close this panel. I'm just running this in Komplete Kontrol for convenience, as I sometimes do. Now, one interesting aspect of version 4, which will be very obvious to anyone who has used version 3, is that they have different presets. And you can see the presets here. I haven't found an exact duplicate, but then I haven't been looking terribly hard. The categories are slightly different. There isn't a vocal category. There are a few drum presets in version 3. Not too much. I wouldn't have thought to worry about excessively. Anyway, I really can't tell if this is dramatically different to version 3 or not. I've had a little look around the Arturia website, but they are not very forthcoming. If anyone has a source of a list of differences between version 3 and version 4, that would be interesting. But let's just have a listen to some of the sounds. I think that's quite nice. Maybe not the sort of sound you would typically associate with the CS-80, but as I said, there are a ton of effects and modulation options and settings here. I'm not going to go into them at the moment. So these obviously make the software version of the CS-80 a lot more powerful and versatile than the original hardware. Oh, let's try one or two more. So I think one of the sounds the CS-80 is best known for is the brass, popularized I think by Vangelis and Blade Runner. That's sort of a nice CS-80 brassy sound. So I still get this out and play with it and fiddle with these upside down sliders. Wonderful. Next. So next on the list is Playbox. This is just such a weirdly wonderful and interesting piece of software. It always seems to come up with something interesting. So what it does, it combines sort of random samples with random chord progressions, and you can mess about with the samples, and you can change the samples, you can change the chords, but it's really interesting to press the dice because it had this super random function and just see what it comes up with. So that's what I sort of spend most of my time doing. Let's run through a few sounds and presets. I love these sort of tinkly sort of sounds. Now, as you may or may not know, you can't actually play tunes on this. It produces a different sound and a different pattern and a different sample possibly over 8 keys. And that's it. So that was just pressing the C key. That was the D key, E, F, and G. Okay, we'll stop there. So you can see some of them produce different chords and different little melodies. Let's try another preset. So they are sort of similar, but a little bit different. That is totally different, so let's try this. So the idea is that you press different keys on the keyboard to produce different harmonic sequences and get different sounds to accompany them. So let's try the dice. No idea what this is going to produce. It always seems to come up with something interesting. I like those first two chords. Reminds me a bit of Strawberry Fields. Let's have another click of the dice. Vocals in there. I love vocal sounds. You can see how easy this is just to play with all day. So I'm just pressing different keys. As I say, they only work within an octave range, and the instrument is doing all the sample playing and the melodies and the tunes and things like that. So I'm not going to go into the nitty gritty of it, but this is just something which I just spend far too long. I've got to have another. Let's have another. So it would be really interested to see some pieces of music produced by this and see if anyone else comes up with the same arrangement, the same sounds and the same chords. Anyway, I hope you can see why this is one of my favourite instruments, one of the favourite things, one of my favourite wastes of time, as the song goes. Let's have a look at another one. So this is Arturia, another one from Arturia's Pigments, which I think this has been around for a year, maybe 2 years, I'm not totally sure, but they keep updating it, and the latest version, again I'm not sure if it came out this year or not, but it has a lot more features and a lot more powerful. It sort of does wavetable synthesis and all sorts of clever stuff, but it is a very flexible, and the interface is it's not too difficult to find your way around. It looks a little bit complicated perhaps on the surface, but everything is sort of well laid out and you can do most of the things that you want to do from the main screen. But it sounds wonderful. Let's run through a few sounds. So it's a sort of a vocally sound. I just get carried away with things like this. Let's try some more. This is a horror score organ, Phantom of the Opera stuff. This is just one key. Maybe a bit heavy for a lot of uses. Yes, that's interesting. And a lot of the sounds, certainly the presets, I don't know how many presets it has. I think I read somewhere it has about 1200, but I could be wrong there. Let's have a quick look. So how many presets are there here? I've actually resized the screen to crop out the distracting back bits just so you can see Pigments, so you can only see some of the presets here, but yes, I guess there probably are 1200 sounds here. So one of the great things about this, I mean, apart from playing with all the presets, is, as I said, it is so flexible and relatively easy to use once you get your head around all the controls and so on. It is one of Arturia's original pieces of software. They haven't tried to duplicate anything, but I think they've learned a massive amount from the software which they have created and sort of put their talent into this. It has been out for a while, but this is a super synth. And it just has so many super sounds, and you can just go in and tweak them. And of course, running Komplete Kontrol, I can use my Native Instruments S49 Keyboard to tweak some of the settings. Right, next. That tail is still dying away. Next! We interrupt your scheduled program for a quick word from your sponsor. That's me. I was just wondering, if you are enjoying the roundup so far, would you like to consider subscribing to the channel, ringing the bell? Thank you, so you get informed of new videos as soon as I release them. That would be wonderful. And if you are enjoying the video, then please click the big thumb, because it lets me know that you are liking the video and I am on the right track with my content. Let's get back to the list. So this is another one from Native Instruments. This is Mysteria, and in one sense, I'm going to be a bit unkind here, in one sense it's sort of a one-trick pony, but the trick it does is absolutely fantastic. It is a one-stop horror movie score machine. Well, if you like haunting and terrifying voices, hysterical voices. So what it does is to blend between two really creepy voices, which you can modify in real time with this control. So let's just see how this works out. This is the first preset, one key, and I'm just going to move this pointer around. Just one key. It's doing all this by itself. You see, it gets darker and more hysterical. I'm still holding down one key. Have to shout over the noise. So I just think that is fantastic. Now, I'm not 100% sure how I might use this in a piece of music other than for scoring a movie. I have a friend who makes no budget horror movies, so that it might get used there, but I just think this is I think this is incredible. If they used different samples, they could probably make other instruments doing different sort of things. But this works so incredibly well. I'm just going to flick through here and pick another preset. Oh, the faces change. This is a nice touch. The faces change when you select different presets. Again, just one note here. So that is that creepy or what? And I haven't even moved this this XY control. Let's see what this does. Well, opera always sounds scary to me, so that's working wonders. Well, what do you think of that? This is a darker one. See, I could use this in a piece of music, industrial ambient music. This would be a perfect drone or backdrop. Space music, alien cultures. Again, just one single note holding one note down. It's doing all the work here. Yes, that's just getting louder. I just think this is wonderful. Let's do one more. Okay, let's try this one. This could be used for industrial ambient, very dark, drony sound. Oh, this is fading in the voices. And the drone's drifting out there. So that's sort of halfway. And the drone gets heavier and the voices get more hysterical. Okay, I get lost in this one as well. So this is called Mysteria. I think they should have called it Hysteria. But this is another instrument I really, really like. So this one is not an instrument. Surprise, surprise, it is an effect, and it is Fragments, again by Arturia. They do produce some really interesting and good stuff. Now, if you've seen some of my other videos, you know that I bought a hologram microcosm quite a while ago, and it's really interesting effect. It's a sort of granular delay, pitch shifting effect, and something like that in software I think would be really cool. Now, Fragments is not exactly the same, but it does similar things. So let's just have a listen to some of the sounds. Now, I have set up an instrument which is just a simple piano. There's not even much reverb on it. So we'll apply Fragments to this sound and see what sort of results we get. So it's sort of granular, delay, reverby, echoey thing that it's doing. So it has a lot of presets. Let's just have a quick look. Divided into categories. Let's just try one or two. Well, that's pitch shifting it. That has turned the piano into a totally out of tune piano. That's sort of putting little ratchets into the thing. That might be thank you. That might be interesting to try that on drums. A little glitchy, echoey delay. But I think some of these are really interesting sounds, and particularly for ambient type music. Or even other genres, that's very rhythmic, that's a really nice sound. So that's a bit of a interesting melodic sound. So that is just a slightly unusual, off-the-wall, weird sort of effect unit, which I think produces some really interesting sounds, particularly for ambient, but also for other types of music as well. Right, next. So this is fluid pitch, and no, it's not by Native Instruments or Arturia. And this does something really interesting. It bends the pitch when you use your pitch bend wheel, but it keeps the pitches in tune with whatever key you select. So in this example, I have selected the scale of C minor. So let me demonstrate what happens and why this is so cool. I'm going to switch this off for the moment. So I'll quickly demonstrate what happens without fluid pitch. Most pitch bends sort of default to 2 semitones. So I'm just going to play a C note and bend it up 2 semitones. And that is the D note, and play D and bend that up 2 semitones. So that bends up to an E. I'm using this sort of reverby organ sound. Now, if you are playing something in the key of C minor, then you may not want the D to bend up to an E, because that is the 3rd of C major, not C minor. So let us switch on fluid pitch, and now I'm going to play the D, and if I bend this up 2 semitones, it doesn't go up 2 semitones, it just goes up 1 semitone to the E flat, because the E flat is the E that we use in C minor. So basically you can play whatever you want to play and use your pitch bend wheel freely, knowing that whatever you play and the pitches that you produce will stay in key. So I think that's quite neat. So really interesting things happen when you apply this to chords. So we are in the key of, or we've set the key to be C minor. So let's play, this is an F minor chord. So that is the F, the A flat and the C. Now let's bend this down. So that is bending it down 2 semitones, and what does it go down to? It goes down to, I'm playing that without any pitch bend, that goes down to E flat. Now under normal circumstances it would not, the F would go down to the E flat, the A, it wouldn't go down to the G, it would go down to the F sharp, and the C on the top would go down to B flat. So we would get that instead of, so we would get E flat minor, as you would expect. If you take F minor down 2 semitones, you're going to get E flat minor, but it doesn't, because we have stipulated that the key is C minor, so it stays in key, and the F minor goes down to E flat. I think that is just an absolutely wonderful sound. And if we bend this up, what do we get? Well, we will get... we do get G minor. Because G minor, the notes in the G minor chord are in the C minor scale, but you can use it to create lots of wonderful bend effects. And of course, we're just using this over 2 semitones. You can change the number of semitones that you bend this over. It also has micro tuning. It has an absolute mass of built-in scales, again because I've cropped the screen around the unit. Some of these you won't see them, but there's a lot of exotic scales and weird scales which you've probably never heard of, which I certainly haven't heard of. How many scales are there in the world? Dozens and dozens and dozens. But you can also create your own scales using this little keyboard here. So I just think this produces some wonderful effects. Now you can use the individual pitch notes on any monophonic instrument, but to use it to its full advantage when chords, you really need an instrument which supports MPE, MIDI polyphonic expression, which of course the new CS-80 V4 does. The example I've been using here is actually with Pigments, which also supports MPE. There are a couple of free synths which support it. Vital is one, and I think Surge supports it as well. And of course, if you have an MPE compatible piece of hardware, then you can direct the output to that. It's essentially a MIDI processor. The setup is going to be slightly different for each different door, but the website tells you exactly how to set it up. Okay, that's enough of that. We'll let that dies down. So this is another piece of software, another effect I have played with for ages and ages, just trying different scales, playing different notes, seeing what happens, different chords. Absolutely wonderful. I love this. I will almost certainly have to write at least one piece of music which uses some of the features in this, particularly the chord bends. So what did you think of my list? Let me know in the comments. What are your favorite plugins, or even plugin? If you have a favorite plugin or several plugins, let me know what they are in the comments. And if you have enjoyed this video, then I think you might enjoy these videos as well. As always, I really appreciate you spending time with me watching my videos. So for that, thank you very much indeed. I will see you again very soon.